We are now recording. We are now live. I've got you.
Are.
I've got you in my man cave now.
Pinned down.
Thanks
with
for coming
beer.
down.
Cheers.
Cool.
Mm.
So you're the next very special guest in my
I thought you were going to say victim there. Was it? Okay.
Yeah, you're my next victim. I'll record you and then you disappear. That's how it works. But yeah, so I'm probably not going to display all of the. I'll just take my glasses off, so that's helpful. I love the way I've taken my glasses off, so I can't actually see the screen. That's really clever of me. There you go. Okay, so we're back to that.
Winning.
So yeah, well, I've done this a couple of times now. I'm trying to get as many people in as I can before I actually publish on the YouTube and the actual podcast, because I want to do this every week.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of people committed for January, but I found it so hard to actually get people consistently into this.
So when do you start getting the famous people on?
Well, this is I mean, apart from yourself, obviously, but
come on. Yeah, compared to Tom, come on.
You've honestly got to start somewhere. So my uncle said this as well. My uncle said, he said, well, who are you interviewing? I said, well, I've interviewed this person, and everything, and he's like, but they're nobody. I'm like, well, that's a bit harsh.
Ooh.
I said, that's not really about
yeah.
it. And they said, yeah, but why would anybody listen to that? I said, well, okay, I'll give it to you in a kind of sense. Like, one thing, I find it fun to do this. I enjoy having these conversations with
Better
people.
way to spend the Saturday night.
And it's great. It's a great excuse
Beer.
to actually catch up with my mates. And, I had a long conversation with Matt Harvey that was on a previous episode, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was like, yeah, we did used to do that.
Yeah.
And it's good. And it's a good way it's a good hobby.
Keeps you at the pub.
It does. And also, do you know what? The amount of random people that I've heard on the Joe Rogan podcast or various podcasts of just friends talking, and I found it totally enchanting. I've been sitting there kind of in my car, don't know who this person is, and I've just listened to a 3-hour conversation of two people that I don't know anything about. And now I've kind of learnt something new, or I found something different that I didn't actually know before. And I think that's the essence of it. I think everybody's got a story to tell, or a couple of little ditties about their own life that someone else hasn't. So to segue nicely into that, the Man Cave, Ali, you are the reason I brought you here. Okay, so you're my friend, obviously, so I want to have a chat about some stuff, but. I want to find out if you had, this is the same question I ask a lot of people as well. If you didn't have to work tomorrow, so there's no job, no bills, nothing to do like that, you're given your own special space, or you're given your own segregated time to just, you can completely get lost in in something, what would it be? So that would be your almost on a kind of a spiritual level man cave.
It's funny you say that, because the conversation we're having in work this week is, if you won 100-something million tomorrow, what would you do?
Yeah.
The first thing I would do is go and resign. Well, once the money's in your
obviously,
bank, yeah. I'd just disappear off the face of the earth. I'd go buy a boat.
But what would you do?
I'd go sail. I'd just go and sail around the world.
Okay, so
I'd literally jump on a boat, get the passport renewed for another 10 years, and disappear off into the sunset. So
sailing is your passion?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I sort of knew this, but I didn't
give it away.
Well, this is the thing, okay? This is the thing that I've learned from this process. Now, I brought Andrew Tupple in here, who's a professional opera singer, and I thought immediately out the gate he's going to talk about opera, and he counted that as his day job. And he was he was like, he doesn't want
on a daily basis, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he didn't want.
He's a phenomenal singer.
Yeah, and he didn't want to talk about his day job.
I get that.
But we talked about all the other kind of things he was into. He was into literature. He was into, theatre and all this kind of stuff. And eventually, what it did is it actually creeped back to music, and his passion about music came out. And there was his real...
Well, it's no surprise, really.
Not really.
The guy's life's built around music. He's a phenomenal singer. And when we've spent time together and certainly the trips we've had away with Tipple, you can tell music is the sole source of him very quickly.
Yeah, he's been involved in it for so long, and it goes pretty. He's got me onto quite a few. Like Hudson Mohawk was one of the people I didn't know anything about before I met Tipple.
I have no idea who that is.
He's from Scotland. He's from Glasgow. He's like he's produced for Kanye West.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a really big.
He's not been put in jail for stabbing someone. Mind you, Calvin Harris got away with it. So
his stuff is pretty good. It was pretty good stuff. It's quite old now, but yeah.
Old doesn't mean it's not still gold.
No. I watched do you know there's a documentary on BBC Three about Scotland's
Don't
rap.
say rugby.
Rap.
Okay.
The history of Scottish rap. That's the actual name of the programme.
Oh,
immediately
this takes me back to like school.
Alarms go off.
Yeah. Have you? I'm trying to think of it now. There used to be these little. I don't know how to describe them. You used to get these little fanboy DJs who wanted to be the big thing, and they got so popular and just like
bedroom DJs.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, we had that.
The Sony Ericssons. Do you remember the original Sony Ericssons that had the first MP3 phones?
Yes, I think I had one like a flip.
I wasn't cool enough. I had a flip phone like 5 years after they were cool.
Yeah, I had one that looked like a PDA.
Yeah, I think. But yeah, these little bedroom DJs were getting massively renowned when like I was in high school in the early 2000s. And it's funny you say that because I was hearing something. I was in Glasgow 2 weeks ago working, and somebody mentioned this to me, and I was sitting there going, Jesus Christ, is this guy still a thing? And it actually is. The guy's made a fortune out of making some really shoddy, badly produced bedroom mixes.
Really?
And from there, he's turned into this absolute phenomenon in Glasgow and the wider Scotland. I can't remember for life.
In what genre of music? Is it like dance music or
Ouija?
Ouija? Yeah. What's Ouija?
Annoying Scottish Glasgow Ned undertone.
Oh, okay.
It's probably the only way I can describe
like Bucky Boys stuff.
Yeah. You've had your fill of Buckfast. I'm going to sit there and try and rap, and for the love of fuck, I don't know why he has come out with this thing. I mean, he's still renowned today. It's unbelievable.
Did you hear about there was a because you know that Scotland's got this, well, Glasgow has got this hardcore wrestling production company which this young lad's running. Yeah, so there's been documentaries about it, and one of the acts is called the Bucky Boys. And they are two like tracksuit laden wrestlers that fly around and like tipping Buckfast on the crowd.
Seriously?
During the match, and swigging down Buckfast and then getting up on the ring.
Like
and
SeaWorld, you have the splash zone, you have the stab zone,
you have the Bucky zone.
Your Bucky zone.
You're gonna get
you're either gonna get covered in Buckfast, or you run the risk of being stabbed some point through the evening.
I did watch a podcast. I did watch a video one time from a games reviewer, Jeff Gerstmann on the Giant Bomb, and they were talking about wrestling a couple of weeks before this video, and they were saying about, oh, well, Scotland's got this wrestling thing, and he kind of like he learnt a little bit about Buckfast, and he started talking about it. So someone sent him a bottle of Buckfast all the way to America.
Have you ever tried it?
Yeah. And he just took one swig and he went, oh, that's of low quality. And I was like, yeah, that's about the right thing.
It depends what number he had though.
Oh,
so every box has a different number, 1 through 25, I think. And each number, I think, as you go through, it either gets thicker or thinner. And depending on which number
we need to explain what this is for people that don't know what Buckfast is.
Buckfast is a one-way ticket to a really rotten day the following morning. It's a tonic wine, isn't it? It's like a
fermented,
fortified tonic wine.
It's a fortified wine which is done by monks
in Buckfast.
Yes, in Buckfast, which is
legitimately a place, and I've put money on it. 75% of the Scottish population probably don't realise that it's actually a place.
But I don't
think they read the labels.
But I think unfortunately, because of its quite potentness, it is used as a form of almost methadone.
Or it's a gateway drug
to methadone.
I mean,
it's a nice starter.
The last time I drank Buckfast, I must have been 16, 17. And this is going back a few years. We were camping in a village or a town called Lochgilphead, and behind the local council offices, which was a castle, there was this huge woodland area, and this went on for miles and miles and miles. And there was a little place called the Witch's Table, which had all sorts of folklore and local stories about what used to go on there. And as kids do, we thought, well, we want to go and have a drink, but we don't want to get caught up with the local constabulary and end up in all the usual nonsense that you did when you're that age in that type of area.
Yeah.
So we go up the back of the hill, as it was known back in the day, with like 2 bottles of Buckfast each, a tent, a sleeping bag, and loads of butane canisters.
Oh yeah, butane canisters. I was about to say, you're not sniffing them, are you?
No.
It's a bit much.
No, the Buckfast did enough for that.
Yeah,
Jesus, you were rattled by one bottle. Well, I was.
Imagine that tent could have actually taken flight with a basket on the end, couldn't it?
Damn well nearly did when somebody threw several of the butane bottles on the campfire. That was, this is like 3 o'clock in the morning. You're fairly well oiled at this point, and some 16-year-olds just throwing like a double can butane that hasn't been touched on the bonfire. And no matter how pissed you are or how young you are, you still have this fight or flight reflex, and you still realise that was really stupid.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really loud.
Yeah.
And I'm also in quite close proximity to this IED that's just been created.
It's going to go off.
For somebody who couldn't walk a straight line 5 minutes ago, I think I ran like an arrow for about 5 minutes flat until I found a ditch to hide in.
Wow. So that's what
Buckfast does to you. It's the worst idea.
It sounds like a bad trip.
Becomes a really good opportunity after a couple of bottles or even a bottle.
Yeah.
It's wild, that stuff.
Oh, so I mean, you obviously grew up in that area. And when did you move down here?
March 2012.
Okay, so 2012. Okay, but because you've only been here like 2 years later, longer than me.
When I met you.
Yeah,
no,
you'd only because I came in 2010, and so it's only been 2 years difference.
Thanking Mr. Sam Thompson for that one. I think I'd seen him, and it was like, let's go.
It was George, because I met up with George, and he brought Sam.
That's it, and Sam brought me.
And Sam brought you, and that was it.
That's right.
And we started doing our Sunday
sessions in
our Sunday sessions, where we used to kind of take stock of the week, didn't we? Which was quite nice.
That was a while ago now.
I know, that was in the Grove now. We can still do that now. You live around the corner.
Well, yeah. Well, but eventually, fingers crossed.
Yeah, taking stock of the week was very important. But because you came down there. But how did you get into so getting back to what we were actually saying about the sailing. Now, like I said, I didn't want to presume that if you had this magical kind of do anything you want pass, what you would use it for. But sailing has been your passion for a long time, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I think,
and you were in the Navy as well?
Yeah, I was for 4 or 5 years. I was a seafarer. Kicked off out of Glasgow Nautical College and then ended up being sent out and going to do my thing with all over the world. It was fantastic. You were getting paid to travel the world. I mean,
but were you learning a trade as well?
Yeah. You would do. So I was doing what was known as an officer of the watch course. So I was doing. I was studying nautical science, which was the academic version.
Yeah.
In other words, it means you're going out and getting really drunk every single night and then rocking up for a couple of classes.
Is that the curriculum then?
That was absolutely curriculum. There was definitely an aspect where you needed to understand the
Royal Navy recruitment's like, okay. Just to be clear, this is the Merchant Navy.
Merchant Navy. So all commercial trade.
We're going to get sued by the Royal Navy for this. Yeah. Merchant Navy don't care.
I think no, and I think that. Well, even in the merchant, we refer to the royal as wafus, also known as wetters and fucking useless. Particularly when you're transiting through pirate zones and you're needing help and they're about 3 days away. I hold no grudges.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was like day release for mechanics. You'd go and spend a period of time in Glasgow and you do coursework, you sit a couple of exams, get constantly pissed and spend any money that you've managed to save at sea.
Yeah.
in the local bars and clubs. And then you would spend 6 to 8 months of time back out at sea, learning a trade, working with a ship's team, working with the crew, and learning your craft. So from where I was studying, it was either engineering or deck officer. I was deck officer.
Yeah. So
I was training to get my officer of the watch ticket and then move into a officer role. So I did that. Found that being away for that length of time is actually really difficult, particularly when, as a 19-year-old, you're thrown into one of the worst natural disasters that Japan has seen since Hiroshima.
So which was this?
So 2011 tsunami, earthquake and tsunami. We were in a port called Tachinaka.
That was bad.
We got sent there last minute. We weren't supposed to go there, and particularly when they were training cadets, they didn't want kids to go into that environment. I mean, I was a kid. I was like 18, 19 at the time. They're like, oh yeah, no, fine, you need to go here. It's a Department of Defense for the US State Department need to recover hardware out of North Japan as after the following events from the tsunami. So that all happened. We went there. We saw a lot of things that no one should ever really see out of no choice of their own, if that makes sense. I know there's a lot of people who are really, really, really keen to get involved in disaster recovery and relief and the voluntary aspect with the Red Cross and things. Phenomenal people, very, very difficult job. Getting chucked into that scenario when you're a young lad and you don't quite understand what you're seeing and quite the scale of devastation that there was insane. Because you're sitting there, you think of the Port of Felixstowe, and you think you've got, I can't remember how many cranes they've got now, but those colossus cranes hanging over Felixstowe. Yeah. Imagine those down on their side like dominoes. The quay's cracked in half, like literally it's separated from the force of the earthquake. And they're still recovering people from the collapsed containers. Yeah. It is wild. So that all happened. And then spending 2-3 weeks in the North Pacific by yourself, surrounded by Norwegian and Scandinavian blokes who don't talk about their feelings. No. And you're just like, I don't know what else to do about this other than drink my memories into some distant past. Okay.
So this is obviously traumatic stuff.
Yeah.
Do they just expect you to get on with it, or are you given kind of like coping mechanisms?
No, not at all.
Tools
it was so. It was what it was. Everyone was in the same boat to some degree, and you're working with a fairly senior crew, and they're just like, get on with it. This is the job. Yeah. Look at it as a job and move on from that. So that was fine. Did that. Okay. Drunk a horrendous amount of booze in Los Angeles, which involved a brief visit with the local constabulary.
Yeah. You had a drunk tank lock up.
I had a drunk tank lock up. I had a drunk tank lock up with about 6 other members of the crew. That was a really good night. The hangover the next day and the explanation to the chief officer the following morning probably wasn't my finest moment. But yeah, it's one of those experiences, and it got to the point that I needed $250 to get myself out of jail to make it back to the boat to get off. The fact is, I haven't come home that night. Half the crew haven't come home that night. They know something's happened, so what do we do? Can't get hold of anybody. I've got no money because I've drunk it all literally the night before. I am flat out broke. It's like first thing in the morning in LA, so I don't know, it must be like nearly midday in the UK, so I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe my old man's up, maybe I should give him a call. Yeah. What do I do? Do I ring my parents back in the West Coast of Scotland and go, so this has happened, can you send me some money so I can bail myself out? Fortunately, it didn't go get that far, and in fact, they didn't find out until I'd come back off that trip about 3 months later. But we all got bailed out. We all went back to work. We got a substantial dressing down from the skipper and the chief officer, following which the next stop, the chief officer actually did something similar, but we won't talk about that. No,
that sounds incriminating.
Do as I say, not as I do. So yeah, and that was kind of like the start of the coping mechanisms that followed that. All fine and well, fantastic trip, through following the West Coast and then East Coast of America, back over to Europe and then home, and that was my last trip I went out on. Yeah. Went back to uni, did my exams, and then decided that I couldn't continue. And that's kind of where the next 5-6 years of issues followed. Right. and probably where eventually there was one particular incident where there was a suicide on the boat from a Japanese crew member, and there was an opportunity where we could see the warning signs, but nobody acted upon those warning signs, and this individual went over the side of the boat with chains wrapped around himself.
Oh my God.
And we recovered him later on, and that was kind of the start of several chain reactions for me that resulted in probably a lot of the things I've done since I've come to Suffolk.
Okay. So this is because this kind of
the worst guilt trip in the world.
Yeah, but this this kind of we'll get onto it, but this is kind of like because of your love of sailing, because of your love of your ability to do that, and obviously now I know your history about what you actually did to help people, to save people. In that situation, you then came here and immediately started being a volunteer for the Coast Guard.
Well, exactly, and so two of my very, very best friends who, when I moved down, really good friend said, "Look, I'm coming up to Manchester to buy a new van. I'm like 3 hours away from you. Do you want me to come pick you up and bring you down south?" Job and work back in the West Coast of Scotland is difficult.
Yeah.
Very, very narrow fields of view unless you have a very, very specific role you want to do that's available within the community.
Yeah.
For me, I've like literally just come back ashore. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Like, I have no idea. So I was like, yeah, I've got family, I've got a few friends here. I'll see what happens. So we literally pile into this van. 9-10 hours later, we rock up in Felixstowe at my grandparents' house, decant the van, and then I get chucked into like anti-fouling a boat for the Sea Cadets. And by which point, I think Phil and I had about 15 shots of espresso throughout the course of the day, which is when we found out the Costa Large Latte already has 2 shots of espresso. When you ask for an extra, you're starting to play with dangerous territory. So we were vibrating underneath, literally rattling away underneath these boats, painting the bottoms of them. And he said, "Oh yeah, have you thought about doing this, and this?" And then all of a sudden, there's this horrendous beeping noise, and like, what the is that? And he's like, "Oh, that's my pager," and he disappears off into the distance, and I'm like sitting going, "What? Where's he going?" I'm like, "Oh, somebody turns around. He's a Coast Guard. He's been paged." I'm sitting there going, "That's amazing. That's cool." So he comes back. We go down to the pub and we're sitting away. I was like, "What was that?" Yeah, he explains the team, explains what he does. Explains where their remit is and what they get up to. And I'm like, I need a bit of that.
Bat phone.
Definitely a bit of bat phone.
Cape Crusader.
It'll get you out of any awkward family situation, get you out of any awkward
So you've gone and cheapened
bar
it now.
situation.
A minute ago, everybody was like, "Oh, mate, he just wants to help people." And it's just like, no, this will get you out of family shit. This will, like, your missus will never know.
Never, ever know. And
no, but you actually do. No, you do it for the right reason.
It was like, I don't have a full-time job yet. I need something to focus my mind on because I'm literally going mental here. Yeah. How do I channel this bad energy into something a little bit better? So long story short, I got invited to turn out to a training event and to watch and sort of do a bit of participation. This is long before our days of like serious health and safety took over the service and what is now known as a Future Coast Guard. So it's kind of like the local sector manager, if he gives it the nod and the station officer's happy, then yeah, fair game. So I turned up to this thing and I never went away. And eventually they were like, "Well, you seem to be here when anyone else is. Do you want a pager?" And that was kind of it. And literally one day, about 8 months down the line, they turned around, "Here's a pager. You're part of the team." Yeah. And I went, "Oh my God, what do I do now?" Yeah. So you get your first job, you get your first blue light run, you get your first like proper, I've done some good here, and it's like an adrenaline rush that you've never experienced before. And all that bad energy has just been channeled into something so much more positive. Like from what has been, I've experienced like literally watching someone take their own life to I've actually maybe helped somebody prevent something bad happening to them. And that was like a complete 180 for me. And that was kind of the start of the journey to recover from and accepting that actually I'm not in a good place and I am doing some good. And if I keep doing that good and I keep working on other things, and I can find some normal out of this.
See, I never knew that about you. I mean, I've been a friend for years. You were usher at my wedding, and I always thought that you did that because you have the knowledge, you have the affinity with the sea, with rescue, with services and public services. And, you know, I think that when you meet certain people, such as like ambulance, like paramedics, people like that, they've got this genuine thing where they just want to help. They just want to help people. And I always think of that, but I never actually knew that you'd actually, you know, kind of turned a negative into that experience, into a positive of actually getting your own, I suppose, your own kind of like consensus, like your mental, you know, your mental self straight by doing that.
I think
work.
A lot for me was you were taking, after being in a negative situation that you had very little control
negative to
over,
a positive.
You didn't know what to do, to go to actively choosing to go back into that kind of environment with the tools and the training behind you and the team to work alongside to make a positive influence on that. Now, of course, you know, countless jobs, it didn't go very well. There was bad endings, but there were so many more that had such positive endings and such.
Sorry, I'm about to say the video stopped again. There we go. See, last time, I don't know why it cuts off after 20 minutes, because it did that last time. Hello, my boy. You're going to do your cameo. You always have to do your cameo. I'll get more views if you actually are in this. All right, now down. Yeah, well, you can have some brandy, like I said. Have some brandy or something. I've got some. I think I've got some mixers in the. I've got this Sobrano, mate. It's your favourite.
Oh man,
it's your favourite.
You know what happens to me on brandy.
Yeah, but the I've got that wine. Like I said, I've got a Copperberg cider. There's one in the kitchen.
There's a co-op up the road.
There's a what?
There's a co-op up the road.
There's a co-op up the road.
to avoid a tragic Sunday, I'm going to be unwell tomorrow.
Okay.
I think after this I might take a wander up and replace your beers that I've
oh right. Okay. Well,
drunk.
it's like I said, it's only 8 o'clock.
Is
so
it really?
It's only 8 o'clock. I made sure that we start this so we'd have an evening after as well. So that's it. So with some tricky editing and everything, but I didn't want to actually stop you going down the road of the actual. So the Coast Guard became your sort of.
It was a big thing for me. It was more important to me than my day job for a long time.
Yeah, but you see this is the thing when I've actually asked about people's passions and everything. Now, some people do their passions for their job. A lot of people don't, and I want them to talk about what they would do if you know they didn't have to work. If you chose that and that's the way you make money, then that's it. Now you still would like to do Coast Guard, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
or would you?
I'm quite enjoying the down period at the moment.
Right.
I love the service. So I finished in June, July this year. I can't actually remember. It's like so many months on already. You know, after sort of hitting the point of deputy station officer and working with the current station officer, and then realising that my work and home life were starting to take over and I couldn't commit to the extent I maybe once was, and certainly to the level the deputy station officer required.
Yeah.
And I sat back and sort of went home and had a chat with Fran, and it's like, you know, I'm definitely not enjoying this as I once was.
Yeah.
Not to do with the service or people. I love the people. The service is fantastic.
Yeah.
What we achieved is just amazing.
Yeah.
But actually, my life had evolved considerably in the how many years I've been doing it. You know?
But you change. I mean, you know, just everybody changes.
Yeah,
I mean, I was deep into basketball coaching, like for God, that must have been nearly 10 years that I was doing that. I mean, I trained some kids from the age of 10 or 11 all the way through, and now they're like 24, 25, and I kind of and I trained them for a good 8 or 9 years, and I got totally. That was it. That was like
it
no
drinking,
nothing like that. It was just that was my passion, and that was all my energy was going into that. But that was good for that time in my life,
and it's great fun. And you know, I look back on all the jobs and all the things we got up to, and I think, holy shit, how did we get away with half of that? How did we pull that off to be going, that was amazing, that was great fun, great times with great people, some fantastic memories, even in the bad, when you go and do the not so pleasant things.
Yeah.
the bonding and the camaraderie,
the camaraderie,
and you find some humor in anything, and that's kind of where the services and the black humor comes from a little bit. But the teamwork and the team passion behind that afterwards, and the support of each other, that's where the good memories still lie.
Yeah.
But I think it's got to a point now that I'm like, I'm actually having to work for a living now.
Yeah.
I've got a career. University was a bit of a killer alongside that, and I think it was a night working, doing night shouts, and then going to work the next day, and maybe having to drive up to Leeds early hours in the morning, and you don't finish a job till gone midnight, and you're leaving the house at 3:30 in the morning. You're like, I'm starting to put myself at risk now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sleeping enough. I'm not getting enough downtime. I'm never sitting still. And I think I came to the conclusion very, very suddenly that this is my time to go. And I've seen it in the past, people who know it's their time to go but can't let go. And they kind of, not intentionally, but they run the risk of bringing themselves down, bringing the team down, bringing the service down. They do burn out. And if you don't know when to let go, that can be more damaging than just letting go and walking away.
This is not you kind of like say the things that attracted it to it, such as kind of the rush, the adrenaline, the camaraderie.
It's a huge buzz.
But then what's the negatives to it? You've told me some stories about, like, I think it was a teenager, was it, that you found?
Just before Christmas 2015, I think it was. Been out for a couple of beers, brother was down, been out with a couple of guys from the team, not a heavy night, just a couple of quiet evening. About 9:30, I think it was the next morning, page goes off, and I wasn't on the incident response team. I wasn't supposed to be doing anything urgent that next day, because I knew I was going out, so I thought I'll not book on for that day, but I'll be available if anything big happens. And something bad's happening when your pager is repetitively set off. One page for IRT, or incident response team, 2 pages for the team, 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages, shit's hit the fan. Everybody needs to muster, get to the station, start doing your thing. So we get there and get a bit of a brief. I mean, this is back in the day, you're literally carrying around a physical page. I mean, we were carrying physical pages till 2 years ago, before they started using mobile technology. Yeah. Literally carrying a relic from the 80s
so funny.
and 90s.
It was so funny. I used to go out with you and you'd be like, being paged.
I'm going.
I was like, what? When is this? You've been paged from the 20th century.
Yeah, literally. It's like they want their IT back. So yeah, we rock out and we were like, okay, Orwell Bridge, somebody's been found. And you get this quite a lot. People stand up the top. It's a cry for help. They need some form of help, or they're genuinely standing up there, and it's not till some police negotiator manages to talk them back off the side. But no, it was alleged that a dog walker has found a body. It's in the mud. We need to go and effect a recovery. So we get there, and this is you get out to jobs, and you think that, you get the brief, and it's all like, oh god, it's quite a big one. This is quite serious, and you get there, and there's like a PCSO and a cop are standing there, kind of like, well, this is kind of nothing, but we need to be here, and we're like, oh, okay, well, we'll just leave it to it, and it's what was Everest is actually a molehill, and it's not a big issue at all, and we let the other services do their thing. But this one, it's like you had fire, you had hazardous area response team, you had half of Ipswich paramedics coming out to this. Right. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you've got the police, and the police are swarming over this, and you're like, okay, body recoveries, the police are always present. Yeah. Unexplained death, they're always going to be there, but this was kind of like to the new level, and we get there, and there's this figure in the mud lying face down, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is a real goer. And me and the guys and the girls of the team, we'd been through this a few times. It wasn't our first rodeo. Unfortunately, we with the Orwell Bridge being on our front doorstep. Yeah, it's a lot of jumpers. You see it a lot, and you usually find one will go, it'll get released in the press, or word will get out, and you'll find you'll get a couple of copycats. And unfortunately, that's how it's been. That's generally how it's gone. But anyway, we get there and we're like, okay, yeah, suit up. And it's like, Ali, you need to get in a mud suit. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I don't think I can do this. I'm looking at Phil, who's sort of in the similar place to me. I'm like, I wish we didn't have that last rum last night, because now it's really starting to play on me. And I'm sitting there going, my battery's dead in my radio. Like, I'm trying to fill my battery. I'm like, I think I might be sick. I'm actually a lot more hungover than I probably should be. And it's okay. So we're like, finally get ourselves together, and we're like, yeah. And the boss comes up. It's like, are you guys okay? And we're sitting there looking at each other, going, I think we shouldn't have drunk as much as we did last night. And we were like, okay, we're in this situation. We need to get it done. So we get out in the mud, and I don't know. Do you know you got the oil bridge? You got Piper's Vale. It's a nice, lovely place to walk, and then you kind of got the mud flats, and there's like the sewage treatment plant. And you got
I worked just above that.
Okay.
That's where my building is.
Yeah.
It's lovely smell in the car park during summer.
God, especially if the wind's in the wrong direction, it's rife. But so there's this person lying face down right next to the steel piling. We're kind of sitting there looking at her, going, "It's a really peculiar place to land. Like if you come off the bridge, you don't generally drift too far away from the edge of the bridge. You generally go straight down and you land in the mud or the water. But where she's landed is like." It's so close to the steel piling that somebody could have pushed her over the side, and we're just like, this doesn't seem right. And you pick people up from who have jumped, and you find they've got really catastrophic injuries, broken pelvises, broken legs, broken arms, shoulders. You pick somebody up there, they're generally pretty bad shape.
So what's it? Is it? I mean,
she wasn't. That
is
bad.
it like hitting concrete when you hit water?
It's like being hit by a train.
Right, it's been hit by a train.
When you hit water,
so
that's
how
big.
high is the Orwell Bridge for?
I think off the top of my head it's about 80 metres, but it's enough to hit terminal velocity.
So
you're
80
doing about
metres terminal velocity, and you hit water that basically is not water by the time you hit it.
No, you're hitting what's effectively steel. It's got the surface tension of concrete or steel. It is a solid when you're hitting it at that speed.
How could you survive that? What
people do?
What technique? I mean, is it because I've heard people survive things like that if they're drunk, because their bodies are not tense, relaxed, and they just kind of like people survive car crashes like that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a story in a minute about this one, which is a far more positive ending than this. But
I mean, say if not that you'd ever want to be in that situation, but if anything, kind of like you were going to come to a great fall into water. I mean, what is are we talking about kind of like make your body narrow as possible?
Do you know what? I think a lot of it depends on the surface tension of the water. So
or how high it is.
And how high you're falling. I mean, if you're falling from any great height, I mean, we've all belly flopped into a pool. And
that hurts.
That hurts like hell. And that's like maybe 2 or 3 meters.
Yeah. You see people on like YouTube and stuff like jumping into these...
in these pools.
These massive pools.
Yeah,
and you just go, why are you not breaking...
Yeah. But honest answer is I don't know. Because you hit that water, it's going to hurt like an absolute hell. You're going to get an enema that you've never had in your life before, depending on which way you're going to hit the water.
A nice starfish.
Seriously, I mean, the force you hit the water will rip your clothes off. I'm not even joking. We picked out people who have had their clothes physically ripped off by the force.
Ripped off.
Yeah.
So the force of it just rips the material straight off the body.
It's unbelievable. If it's like tracksuit bottoms or a loose fitting shirt, it'll either rip it open or rip it off. It is unbelievable the force of the impact. Anyway, we get out there and crime scenes are involved, so we're kind of waiting for the crime scenes to give us the nod to go in. They're taking all the photographs. They want to take some evidence stuff because obviously it's unexplained death. She's in an unusual location. Mm-hmm. She's displaying unusual things that have happened. Like this isn't like any other job we've ever done before. So we're kind of taking our time. We're doing our thing. So we get the go ahead to recover, and we roll her over, and we realise very, very quickly that she's young. She's really young. Like usually normally it's a male between the age of 20 and 40.
Okay.
It's usually the jobs I've been to,
right,
which sort of fit very much within the national statistics for male suicide, which is such a major issue. Yeah. But it became quickly very unusual that A, she was female, and B, she looked extremely young. Mm-hmm. And I'm sort of looking at film like, this ain't good. Like, this is never a good situation. But suddenly your gut's starting to churn. You're starting to go, oh wow, okay, this ain't great. So anyway, we do our thing. We set her up for recovery, and unfortunately, when we go out in the mud, we walk out and then we get a tow back. So it's kind of like you get a lift home. So it's a lot of physical exertion getting out there, but you sit in the stretcher and you get taken home on the way back. 2 stretchers in tandem and you get pulled along. Anyway, the location it was too far out for our lines to reach safely, and the angles that we had to get around were going to be really, really difficult. So we decided very quickly into the job that this was going to be a freelance job, and we were going to walk out without a tow line, and we were going to walk straight back, because it was relatively hard mud. You probably could get away walking through it with normal equipment.
So this is with the body.
This is with the body,
right?
But we realised very quickly that we won't be able to do this conventionally. So, the surface was quite hard in places, but then very soft. So, when it's hard, it's very easy to walk across, but what you're towing is going to have a lot of drag. But when you're going through the wet stuff, it just glides over. So it's maybe 500-600 meters walk back.
Yeah.
I'm not the fittest person in the world.
Right.
I had a few shandies the night before. We have to stop a few times. Anyway, we finally get back to meet the hazardous area response paramedics on the shore. We do our thing. We hand over. They do their confirmation of life extinct and that. And one of the guys is like, "You guys need some water." Like, started chucking us water. Anyway, one of the guys who wasn't even on the mud job, who was one of the supporting officers, just starts taking this massive swig of water. Anyway, he didn't realise that there's a massive lip of mud around the mouthpiece. So he just projectile vomits.
Oh.
I then projectile vomit. No. And I'm like, oh God, that feels better. I look around at Phil, who's then projectile vomit.
Oh God.
The paramedic's like, "Are you guys all right?" And I'm like, "I need to go lie down."
Oh no.
Somebody, for the love of God, give me a cigarette and a bottle of water, and if there's a coffee about, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So, we went home, and it's literally, my mum and dad had just driven down from Scotland. My brother was getting here. Like, I planned to spend the day with my brother.
Yeah.
And he was not happy in the slightest about this. He didn't know what I'd gone to. When you get into a job.
Oh, so he wasn't happy about you going to the shout.
I just vanished. I didn't tell him where I was going.
Oh,
I didn't have any time. So, he's understandably a little bit pissed.
Yeah.
I get home and I get back to the station. We do our wash down, which usually takes 3 or 4 times longer than the actual job does. It takes hours to wash everything down. All the lines, all the stretchers, all the kit you've used, all your PPE, everything gets covered in mud. Everything, absolutely everything. So by the time we finish this, it's maybe 5-6 o'clock in the evening. We've been there for a long time on the job. The job was very, very much extended, and we went out. Got home, started doing the washdown. So anyway, we were all fine and well, and we're having a bit of a laugh about it. Try not to, not talking about the elephant in the room. I get in my car and I drive home, and on the drive home, I just uncontrollably start crying. So I get home and I was a bit teary-eyed, and my dad's there, and I'm like, "Oh, hi Dad, how you doing?" I put on a brave face, and he's like, "What was the job?" And as soon as he did that, the lump in my throat, I can't speak. I feel like I'm about to throw up this ball through my neck. And he's just like, "Oh my God, what's happened?" So I started telling the story, and again, uncontrollably, my mum comes out, and I'm like, "I don't want to tell my mum this. She doesn't need to know what I've been up to. This is mothers don't need to hear this. There's another mother who's had a really bad day today.
Yeah,
we don't need to be talking about it. It's Christmas. Let's find some joy." Yeah. And she starts crying. Then I start crying. I'm like, "Oh Jesus Christ, I can't cope with this."
Really.
And that's probably about as the worst it ever got within the service. Yeah. That was probably my utter low point.
Because I remember you mentioning that, and I thought he doesn't normally mention.
It played on me for many a year, and I think what didn't help is it was really well publicised. The name was released through the press, and there was a lot of photographs, and it's just like you're starting to know the person, you're starting to understand who that person is, and that's where you struggle to distance yourself from the whole job, and you become emotionally involved and personally involved, and you don't want to be involved in this. It's a job. You do the job. You go home, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. Was this far deeper than the previous traumas that you had in the kind of typhoon, in the tsunami and things like that? Because you didn't actually have that. You didn't have that kind of depth of knowledge about those people.
Yeah, exactly. But I think this was starting to open up the real issues at hand, because I'd accepted that this job really threw me. I accepted that I was really quite affected by it, and that I needed to do something to bring myself back into the norm.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where there was a bit of a decline following that job over the next couple of years. I didn't really want to do bridge jobs. I wasn't over that.
Right.
By any shape or way. Fortunately, I've got quite a strong group of friends who work within the service in various degrees, and we'd go for a beer, we'd have a chat, we'd talk about it, and you'd work through the job and you'd work through the things that happen. And eventually it was like, okay, I think that the final thing that really got to me is I started getting flashbacks. I'd suffered from flashbacks before. I'd suffered from bad dreams, but I started having flashbacks. This is about a year, nearly 2 years on from that actual job.
Yeah.
Coming up to Christmas, started to get flashbacks, and I started dreaming about this girl. And I'm like, that makes no sense. Hadn't thought about it for a long time. Her name hadn't been brought up for a long time. There was a whole coroner's hearing that the name has been brought up a lot. Nothing ever happened at that point. And eventually I went to work one day and I spoke to my boss. I was like, I really don't think I'm very well. I think I genuinely need some help.
Right.
And that was the first point I went, I need to do something about this now. It's putting pressure on my relationship. I had a complete breakdown in my relationship with Fran, and just went on a complete self-destruct mode.
Yeah.
Ended up working at the Port of Felix, who have a fantastic occupational health team.
Okay.
And she said, you need to go and speak to the occupational health nurse. So I went in and I just basically burst in. I need help. Like, this is it. I can't continue to live how I am at the moment. I need to change something for the positive. So she introduced me to they have like a contractor that comes on who's like a psychotherapist. And we went through the process of EMDR.
Yeah.
And that was, you're literally sitting in a dark room and you're going through all your worst memories from start to finish with a red and green light flashing in the corners of your eyes.
Really?
And it's like, the only way I can describe it is like you're going through every single memory on like a hard drive, and you're resaving them in order, so you then control how they come back up and go away. So you stop getting the flashbacks, you stop getting the dreams.
Okay.
You still get them, but you deal with them a lot better. And that was completely revolutionary to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a long process. So if you go back to
8 years,
so if you go back to it, this has been a kind of journey. So I didn't know that you had these kind of things.
I didn't really.
You didn't really share it.
I never complained about it. I never made a big deal about it. I never spoke about it. It was like this is my
the issue, though, isn't it?
And this is it.
Nowadays, I mean, we're starting to come around. I've had my own issues, which I smart enough to actually go talk to someone about, and I found it really helpful to talk to someone.
The sooner you deal with stuff, the easier it is to help. I've seen some of my closest friends who work within the services have complete and utter personality breakdowns because of some of the things they've been through, and they've been very smart and they've been very quick to go and get help, and they have made fantastic recoveries and have been able to then help others do it. But there's still such a stigma around mental health, and particularly in men. Blokes do not want to talk about mental health, and I kind of understand that. I've been there. I've been in that environment. You don't want to have that conversation because you don't want to appear weak or not capable.
Yeah, because it's a kind of like man up is a stupid term which is battered around for many years now, and it's kind of like it's become that stigma of like stop being a crybaby, just get on with it. But really it's just like especially in these day and age, where mental health, self-image, sense of being, importance, things like that, they're magnified to such degrees massively now.
I think something summed it up this week that says, the things are going in the right place, going into the right direction, but actually they're not there yet. The East England Ambulance Service, this in the last 11 days have had three people lose their lives within the service.
Really?
Now they've not released the reasons as to why, but it's strongly believed that these was a result of self-action.
In the service?
In the service.
There were employees.
I think 2 paramedics and a call handler. They have all died in the last 11 days.
This is all NHS services people.
There was a paramedic took his own life earlier this year who's a friend of a friend.
God.
And you just think there's still such a massive issue in this country alone with mental health being looked at as a stigma. But even still, in the services that are going out to help people who are suffering from mental health, there is a crisis, and it's mad. These are health professionals, practitioners, and first responders who are going out to people in their worst possible moments in life, and there doesn't seem to be anybody available to go and help these guys. I mean, I know the service is taking some pretty strong steps, but it just kind of demonstrates that we're still not where we should be.
But these are the prime candidates for PTSD,
Massive
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know.
And I think, you know, this process in place, trauma risk management, is a great process if managed and administered correctly, but it doesn't fix things, it just highlights things. It very much depends on what's going on in the background.
But don't you think that some of it is, they are a bit more slow to react to that, because it's not a new thing, and I don't know whether it was healthy, but people in the services, the fire services, the health service and things like that, 50 years ago or something like that, you didn't hear so much about people having PTSD, or you didn't have psychotrauma that was actually having to be dealt with from the severity of what you're seeing, the images you're seeing, the things. I mean, like, people live through a war.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a case of now it's kind of coming to light that maybe those people weren't as healthy or didn't have such great, you know, dealings with that service. And, you know, do you think that, you know, because there's a magnifying glass on it, people, I mean, what do you think? Do you think that it's gotten worse?
I think
and what are the contributing factors to that?
I think there's two things. I think there's people who genuinely suffer trauma and genuinely need help.
Yeah.
And I think with the right help can find a new normal. I don't think you can ever find what was normal. Certainly in my experience, you find a new normal, and a new normal you find comfort in.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but in my day job in HR, I do find you get people who are looking for a claim. And I think there is an element whereby you become, you know, in the right circumstances, you can, I don't want to say milk it, but I do feel that people do take advantage of saying, I can't work.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of the system a little bit, which then detracts the help for the people who really
need it.
I mean, I think, have you been watching World on Fire?
Oh no, is that the World War II?
Yeah, series 1, brilliant.
Yeah, so really my mum's been watching it, and I will get onto it on iPad.
There's one character in there played by Sean Bean who
he dies, obviously.
No, he doesn't.
What the hell?
Spoiler alert!
I want my money back.
He actually lives through a full series.
It stopped again, and it keeps stopping. But hopefully I caught it because I haven't checked it. It's okay because the main thing of this is your actual audio recording, because this is a podcast. Yeah. I'm only putting it on YouTube for people that would like to follow on YouTube, but they don't actually have the full podcast on YouTube.
Ah, I see.
They have a link to get the full podcast on YouTube, but I might have something that will completely go. Hello, Michael.
He's cameo number 2 this evening.
Oh no, he's Mr. Cameo tonight.
But yeah, so Sean Bean literally is in every episode and doesn't die.
Okay.
Which is
spoiler.
Which is new, yeah. Spoiler alert. He lives to see the end of the series. He got paid to do a full series.
Wow.
He's either getting better at acting or he's skint. I don't know. Anyway,
they've just found a way not to kill him off now.
Yeah, I mean, but his character is really clear, shell shock, post traumatic stress disorder, and even though he got treatment, it's quite clear that there's still the stiff upper lip attitude. Right. You get on with things, and I think people didn't necessarily want to have those conversations and discuss their problems and make them public, because I think there was such scrutiny amongst people back in the day, whereas now I think people are far more open to talk about problems and help others and accept people do have issues and work with people to help resolve them, not be quite as judgmental as maybe we as a society once were.
So this is quite a personal thing, I think, between individuals, but with the counselling that you received, what would be your best description of what it was in your opinion? So I kind of got in my head, and I'll tell you in a minute how I interpreted what I was doing in those sessions and how it helped. But what was your kind of definition of it? Kind of like, if you were to describe, saying, what did you do? And just describe the general thing, not so much about what you talked about, but just like, the process. What did you kind of like, would describe the process as?
Initially, it was getting to know the counsellor and talking about things and describing what I was going through and what I'd done previously, to then kind of, find comfort in talking to her, because I found that really difficult to start with. Yeah. Very approachable.
Building a rapport.
Building that relationship to find comfort and be relaxed enough to go into every itty-gritty detail. And then eventually she decided on the process of EMDR, which is, for me, was completely emotionally draining. It took months to go through from your earliest memory to your most recent one, and it particularly focused on traumatic memories, and particularly the memories you don't want to talk about. And as I said, it basically focuses on how, with the idea of being able to have more control over those memories. So you have more control over the flashbacks. You're used to dealing with it. You're used to talking with it. It's not as big an issue when you get thrown back into a situation that you have absolutely no control over.
Okay.
And being able to control that memory and going, okay, that's fine. I've had a bad dream. It's not going to completely fuck the rest of my day. I can go back and do what I want to do and move on from there.
Yeah.
Whereas previously you'd be an emotional wreck all day. You don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to do anything. You just kind of, you're in the shell and you don't want to let anybody in. You don't want to let anything out. And going through that process of going through every single thing that I could remember in that environment, didn't initially see much effect, but very, very slowly as we went through this process. And this went on for maybe 5 months, 2 sessions a month, 5 months, maybe even 6. We went through absolutely everything. And as I came out of that, the sessions got easier. I think that was the first thing I know. I didn't feel like I can't talk to anybody. I just need to go home. I can actually go back to work. And bearing in mind, this is in work time. Work are paying for this. Yeah. Thankfully, I had a very good boss at the time who said, if you don't feel like you can come back after this today, just go home, start fresh tomorrow. Yeah. And I think as I went through that, I started to feel, actually, I can go back to work. Yeah, that sucked, but I'm okay. I can kind of go and do my job again. Yeah. And that was kind of the first step that I started to realize, this is making a difference. Okay. And slowly from there, by working through everything, you find a new normal, and you accept that your past is part of your new normal, and that the person you were and the things you were and things that made you who you were previous to that are no longer. Right. And you need to accept that what's happened has happened. Yeah. And work with it to find a new way forward.
Okay. So that was that's interesting, because the way that I found my particular thing, because I was kind of nervous about being there. I was kind of like,
it's really awkward.
It's awkward, yeah. And I went to a guy locally who was very good. I just kind of chose him. Just thought, see how we get on. And he was a big listener, which was quite good, because I tend to be a chatterbox anyway, especially when I'm nervous. And I found that when I was going through it, I found that he wasn't really saying much, but I was listening to myself talk. And I was thinking about what I was saying, and he was sort of only really picking up on, leading me to the next chain of thought, to think about something a little bit differently, or to contradict something that I was saying with my previous sessions, which I must admit was a hell of a skill, because I thought we must see other people and all this kind of stuff. But he has picked up on what I was saying 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago about a certain thing. And then you go, and he said, do you really think that? And I went, no, I don't. This is just how I'm feeling now. Yeah. This is how I'm interpreting now. I don't actually feel that way, or I don't actually think that, because that's not congruent with what I've actually said previously. And it is a massive reflector. And once you get kind of all of that stuff out, and you've had all this kind of reflection on it, it's almost like you released it. Yeah. If you've released it into the air and you're starting afresh. I think the other thing was that he said something which was just has stayed with me and probably will stay to me forever. He's just said that if you're living with one foot in the past and one foot in the future, you're pissing all over now. And I was like, wow.
I'd never heard that before. That's
an
interesting.
And the minute he said that, and I stopped worrying about what was to come or what I'd previously been through, which we'd talked about in length, I was just like, well, just concentrating on this bit. That's actually quite relieving to actually concentrate on just now. And it was great. It was a great piece of advice. And it did kind of make you a bit more, it's a bit of a buzzword to say, you're a bit more present.
Yeah. You're in the moment. You're not, I think it zeroes you into where you are at that moment in time.
But you don't do anything.
Not so distant.
I mean, you needed action. You took action. So you had a traumatic experience. You came out into a new world and you took action to interact and to confront any demons, because it wasn't like you're going to say, oh, I've had a traumatic experience where I've seen death. I've seen people in hurt, in need. It's not a normal thing to go, I'm going to go headfirst straight into that situation. Yeah. But that's the action that you chose, the path you chose to actually take it head on.
Weird.
But it's true though.
Like, who does that?
So you've done that, and you've just gone, okay, well, this is horrible.
I need to have more.
I need more.
Yeah.
I've got demons I need to exercise here.
Yeah.
And this is how I've interpreted what you've just said.
I think that's very accurate.
And it's just, and then you've took it on, and then you've hit a point where it's just like, do you know what? I've got to a level. Yeah, I've got to a level where I understand why I'm doing this. I understand what it's done to me, and I'm ready to now open up to fix problems with a different action. And it looks like you actually took the path to actually doing that. So rather than kind of like, service people that kind of like, well, I'm really traumatized by the fire I've just put out. I'm going to go into more fires until I eventually get burnt. That's not the best way. But if you actually like take a minute, hold on, let's just, let's look at what happened. Let's review and let's move on.
Take count and move forward.
And that was it. So you've gone through the whole kind of process now, and you are now retired.
27 and retired.
27
retired.
Let me just say, you're not actually retired. You're retired. No. You're retired from the services. You're retired from shouts.
Yeah. For the time being.
For the time being, but never say never.
I'm retired for now, but maybe in a couple of years this will turn into a sabbatical and I'll go back into it. But
That's it.
I think I think there's bigger events to focus on. House.
Everybody
jobs.
Changes. Yeah, everybody changes. I've never said that I would never go back to basketball.
Yeah, well, exactly. But the chances are, give it a year down the line, you might.
Who knows?
I mean,
circumstances would need to change and everything, and different things. But like I said, as long as you take action towards it and just And
I think and the best thing is I'm not getting shouted at for waking the whole house up. Yeah. I don't come home early hours of the morning absolutely stinking of aviation fumes.
Don't have to have a pager on your belt looking like a 90s drug dealer.
No, I still think they had a Nokia 3310.
Yeah. What up? What you need?
It's like people, do you know what? I reckon I must have cost the service hundreds of pounds in the amount of cases. I used to go through a case every month or two because I'd sit down. I'm quite a big guy. And you sit in an office chair and you just catch a page and rip it off your belt and just snap the thing. I must have gone through it. I got to the point I stopped requesting them and making formal requests for them because they were getting really, really, really annoyed at how many of these things I was going through. And they're not massively expensive, but when you're going through like at least once a month, that starts to mount up a bit. So I just started buying my own.
Yeah.
Because it's like I felt embarrassed going asking, I need another page in case I'm really, really sorry, or I've lost it, or it's just disappear, because it would jump off your belt. You wouldn't realise, and then you get home and you get phone calls going, Ali, where are you? I'm like, the page has not gone off. I'm like, well, hang on, where is it? And then you get back into it and somebody, the cleaner will go, oh yeah, I found this knocking about the office. I'm like, oh, okay, I've got another one on order, never mind. But they've discontinued paging. Vodafone stopped it. Paging is now a thing of the past. Unless you're on I think it's OneCom or something.
I think paging. You'll probably find that when the aliens attack, that everybody will get on. They'll get on pages again. Like the one system that nobody knows what to do with.
Three organisations I know still use pages. sizable power plant.
Right.
They've got core staff on pages,
Nice.
paging units. They're on One.com. Lifeboats, they're still on pages, a lot of them, but they're all local pages. They have a mast on the top of the building. They ring up a phone line and it sends a number out. And fire service, they're still, again, they're very similar. So they're on a mast on the top of their site, and you have to live within a certain radius to pick up the message.
Well, customs are still using faxes. Like I remember right up until I don't know whether it's still the case, but right up until recently, people were saying that they were still faxing things into customs. I was like, faxing? Really?
I mean, I was getting faxed references when I worked for maritime transport. People were like, "Yeah, I'm not good. We can't accept a reference unless it's via fax." And we're like, "Jesus Christ!" Like faxing.
I know. It was like I
still don't know how to use a faxer.
Yeah. When. Yeah. Well, I used to have to support them in the office, and we always used to have like the 1 or 2 fax machines. And honestly, it was like trying to find like a big dial telephone. You know, that's the kind of technology that you go, okay, we've got a fax, we put that there, you know, press some buttons, I'm getting a dial tone, understand the concept. Yeah. And that was it, fax to fax. But it was so funny. It was just weird. It was just so weird.
I can totally believe that.
It was so weird to have that. And that was over when I was at the shipping company. But yeah, that's technology, the way it works and everything. You don't miss it. Do you miss it? How long has it been? Do you miss it all? I mean, how long has it been since you give up?
June, July.
Yeah, you haven't had long enough to miss it.
I'm still in the honeymoon period of like having my own time and having a drink when I want to have a drink, and kind of like, I don't have to get up to go and do anything.
Yeah,
like, all the paperwork's done, all the stations. So, you know, it's
you've earned a rest though.
Yeah, and like I've had more time off this year than I think I have since I moved down south, and that's been nice. You know, I've spent more time with Fran. Yeah. You know, we've managed to focus on more things that we want to do and achieve. So, you know, like buying a house, that's a ball ache.
Yeah, tell me about it.
If you told me how much ball ache buying a house would be, I would never have.
You know, they said the 2 most stressful things in a human being's life is buying a house and weddings. Those are the 2. Getting married and buying a house are the 2 most stressful things that a human being does. I'm
starting to understand that very slowly. I'm nearly halfway.
Wait till you get married.
Hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
It's always the first step. House comes first, then comes marriage. So if you get a baby in between, there you go. That's the next one. I said you should do what a bunch of our friends do. Get a dog first.
I'm down for a dog.
But then the thing is that they get a dog, and the dog actually lives longer than they want to be without a baby, and so they end up with a baby and a dog, and realise the dog gets the short end of the stick because the baby gets all the attention, which is not fair on the dog at all. That's that can happen.
I might sit quietly and observe a few.
Yeah, so this is the other thing as well, is that I've got you around here. We're gonna we'll probably get some more beers in, and we're gonna bust out some Destiny 2, and we're gonna bust out some gaming because you've just got back on the gaming scene.
Back on PlayStation. I nearly cried when my original PlayStation 4 blew up after a thunderstorm.
Yeah,
fried it, and
oh god, what did it go down the line or something? What happened?
It killed everything on an extension lead. It wasn't a protected power supply.
Oh god, okay.
It's just fried.
No breaker.
No, there was a breaker, but it was enough to kill everything on that extension. So one of which being my PlayStation.
Could have done that on house insurance.
Oh yeah, but that's through the in-laws, and I don't really want to upset them. But anyway, so I bit the bullet, got a new PlayStation, got Modern Warfare, throwing myself right back into the days of sitting in the middle of the night playing that, and I thought, and you've recommended Destiny 2, and it's like,
because I'm on the Destiny 2, and you're going to join with a clan. You just kind of come into the fold with that as well. We've got So we've got ADB Gaming, which is a dot boom, which is our friend Andy. He lives up the road, and he's got his own gaming channel. He's mad on Apex Legends. He loves it. He's playing Modern Warfare at the moment. I'll hook you up with him so that you can play with him. But he plays online as well, so he plays.
You've got to have a play. You have got to give it a go.
I'll think about it, but at the moment I'm kind of like, Destiny takes so much kind of like slow drip to keep participation up. I'm kind of like, there's a little bit more of a lull now until the end game stuff, but I really want to get into the end game stuff of it, because that's where the real kind of, I've got one of my players, or a couple of my players, up to the level now where I can actually participate in end game stuff, but I'm still getting absolutely murked in so many different ways. And I go to something that's like, I'm 40 levels above it, and I'm getting destroyed. And I'm like, why am I dying so quickly? And I keep thinking, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? What weapons have I got? And you start going down the rabbit hole of having to learn the intricacies of the game. So I'm kind of at that point with it. Yeah. And I want to do Borderlands 3 at some point. Because
I heard that looks good. But I've got to say, like, I grew up with Halo and Modern Warfare, and I think the Modern Warfare thing went a little bit too far, a bit too crazy, and then you had Infinity Warfare and all sorts of weird.
But you've had two different companies produce for that.
Yeah,
so you've had Treyarch and
Activision, Infinity Ward battling off
Infinity
each other.
Ward, and so you've had two separate things, and they've just oversaturated it. I think with it,
but they've brought it right back to basics. It's a beautiful game, fantastic storyline. Okay, they've gone to
not many people play campaigns.
They could have made. Oh, I love it. I'm really, really into the storyline. Bit anti-Russian. If they've gone to the extent to make a fake Afghanistan, they probably could have made a fake Russian, not try to piss off the whole of the Eastern Seaboard. But they've done it. It's good. It plays well. The online multiplayer still needs tweaking. Like there's a shotgun you can effectively turn into a 725 is effectively a sniper rifle. This is your over and under, but it's a shotgun. Yeah, you expect to use on a pheasant shoot or a clay pigeon shoot. This thing with a barrel extension and a scope, you can fucking snipe people. Like,
doesn't make any sense.
No, exactly. So the physics need to be worked out a bit. There's another update last night that's really skilled. They've nerfed it again, which is great because you can walk around a corner and run the risk of maybe at least getting off 2 shots before your face disappears into the back of the next wall. So the online multiplayer is going really, really well. Really like that.
Yeah.
Special Ops is great fun. 5 teams of 4 people running through campaign-style missions. It's good. Not heard of anyone actually completing anything yet. It needs a lot of work still. There's still a few issues with the fact that the AI on the... or the NPCs are a little bit haywire.
Okay.
They're doing everything. They're doing weird and wonderful stuff. They are just running around in circles.
It still sounds like bugs to me.
Yeah.
It still sounds like bugs.
Obliterating everything. So it's like, okay, they need to tone that down a little bit so you stand a chance of actually completing.
There's a massive issue with games being released now that aren't... They are so buggy.
Yeah, they're not ready.
The EA released Anthem, which just was a mess.
It's flatlined.
I think it's £5. You can actually pick up a physical copy of that now.
I was playing that, but I don't even know if I'm going to bother.
No, and then you've got Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi, the new Jedi game by EA. That really needs patching. Apparently, that is just full of it.
Like, I was so excited for Battlefield when it.
Battlefield
2 when they were remaking that.
It's not. I've played it recently. I picked it up when it was about £12.
Yeah.
And I must admit, it's a lot different to when it first came out.
Okay.
It
might be worth another download.
Yeah, I picked it up because I remember playing the demo and thinking this is not what I want to be playing. And then a friend of mine at work was the same as well because he was like, I don't want to pull the trigger on it. And then it went down to about £12. We pulled the trigger, and since then they've had a couple of releases. He's continued to play it.
Okay.
And it's not bad. They've done a lot of work with it. The levels are a lot better. There is still some bugs. There is still some cheese. But on the whole, it is not a bad game. Yeah. It is not a bad game. They've taken the monetization element sort of out of it.
Finally.
So
loot boxes.
They're still there.
Yeah.
But you don't need them to actually be good at the game. And I think that was the thing. You needed to buy loot boxes to even compete.
When you spent like 50, 60 quid on a game, and then you have to buy loot boxes to get anywhere with it. It's just like, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, you don't need that.
What was really refreshing is having put it down for like over a year and stepping straight back into it. Titanfall 2 still looks as good as a day it came out.
I love Titanfall 2. The channel
absolutely smashed.
It's like the most. It's the most content I've ever done on the channel is Titanfall 2 stuff, and I think we're on the video.
A lot of hours.
Yeah, we're on a video, which is on the channel, on this channel section, where we've actually played online and stuff. And I think we played what was that one? For Honor. We played that one as well.
For Honor. Oh,
that was a mess, wasn't it?
Not a fan of that.
That was a big mess. Apparently, it's better now, but it's free to play. but they've
when a
they've
game
sorted it
goes
out.
free to play, I think you have to ask the question: is it worth it?
Yeah, but I think sometimes when it goes, well, you say that, but Destiny.
Well, yeah, but
Destiny's gone free to play because they you know what's happened. Bungie have actually separated from Activision.
Oh, have they?
So they completely have cut ties. So Activision have just they are out of the loop, and Bungie have kind of said that Activision's steer is not the way they wanted the game to go.
Okay.
So a lot of the fans, the kind of hardcore fans that have actually stuck with them, they're very confident. And Bungie have done some interesting things. They've actually done webinars, they've done web series about the development. It seems like a lot of passionate people are involved now. And this is the first DLC, huge DLC, which is Shadow Keep, that they've released for Destiny 2, which is just Bungie.
Really?
So it's just Bungie doing things.
Interesting.
And they've taken away the paywall. So now the only thing that you pay for, which people do, I had a friend that plays online, is the cosmetic things. So you want a funny speeder bike, you want a nice emote, you want to, it's like Titanfall, it's got the skins and stuff like that and the special Titans.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect your gameplay, it's just
Looks
all
good.
cosmetic.
It's. I think.
I reckon that goes off when it gets to 9 gig, and because I've got a setting on there. So, but I'm not too fussed about it because our main objective is here. So there we go. So I think with all this games talking, then we should probably get gaming.
Sounds good to me.
So I think we should talk again. Because I've really enjoyed this.
It's been nice.
I think this has been absolutely brilliant. I mean, just to kind of, I'm really, really I feel really grateful that you actually decided to talk about those subjects, and just talk about when we're talking about your passion, and then it was kind of like you came out with brilliant stuff.
It's kind of a natural lead on. And I think I think the only thing I'd say is anyone who's kind of in a position. Go and talk to somebody. Yeah, it may suck to start with, but just even if your best mate, your mum, your dad, whoever it is, a counsellor, a psychotherapist, a trim practitioner, a doctor, go and have a conversation. I feel better for it. Do you feel better for it? Yeah, I did. I must admit, I did find it helpful. And I'd recommend it to anyone just to go and get that talk and. Just get it out of you. Get it out. Get it out, the bad things. I would also say exercise. Yeah. Is helpful. Definitely. I used to swim a lot.
Yeah. So
as you can tell, I'm a trained
figure thing.
I'm really aiming after Buddha right now.
Well, I joined the gym about February this year, and I went hard till about August, and I was like 5 a.m. starts 3 days a week, and I was doing it, and I felt great. But my life did change a little bit because there was about 3 points in the week where I was going to bed at 9 o'clock to get up at that 5 a.m. And it was hard, that 5 a.m. Yeah. But it's so good to be in there. Great time of day. It is because you get in there. Summer. Yeah, so you get in there and the gym's pretty much empty. There was always like one guy in there or something and me. And then you really try and have a session. But I found that the sessions that I was having, they weren't... Some were really good, but then a lot of them weren't. A lot of them were kind of like almost going through the motions, or you're not really having the energy. And I just wonder whether breakfast yet. You're training fasted, which was no problem because when I got home I ate loads, and you had to keep the food in your system and stuff. But it was really difficult, and the amount of food I had to eat just to maintain that training regime, I just couldn't do it. I was like, I'm eating like quite semi-healthy now, but the amount of food that I feel like I'm eating food now and I'm not putting any weight, but when I was actually training, the amount of food I had to just eat just to maintain my weight, it was quite
I just
quite
have
amazing.
To look at food and I put on like half
different.
My metabolism's like stop.
Some jeans there, some Scottish jeans there.
Yeah.
That's some fried
deep fried Mars bars.
Deep fried Mars bars jeans. Mate, thank you very much for coming on. And I want to see you again. Thanks.
Destiny.
I think so. Let's go.
Nice.
Right, thanks for joining. Goodbye, everyone.